Do not sell goods to both sides on a war. They're going to eventually come after you, and the British did. 2, we found out that our fortifications are inadequate as a young country. So the United States goes on a building spree. 42 brand new fortifications, known as the third system of United States fortifications, are going to be built. Fort Sumter is one of them, and will join 3 other fortifications here in Charleston Harbor. Fort Moultrie behind us, Castle Pinckney up in the upper Charleston Harbor, and Fort Johnson behind us over here on James Island. Now, you may be asking yourself, we have 3 forts here, why do we need another one? Well, it's plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen. The cannon technology for that time period could not reach all the way across the harbor. It would only reach about a mile, and between the 3 miles that is between these 2 forts, you'd still have a big old mile gap. So you do need a fort to kind of plug that hole up. What better fort's put out here than Fort Sumter? So, in 1829, we start with 50,000 tons of granite and rock brought in from New England, built upon a stable sandbar. So, ladies and gentlemen, especially those of you from the north, even down here in the heart of Dixie, you still are on Yankee soil. So, those of you from the south, I'm sorry. However, you do have 5 million Confederate or Southern-made bricks surrounding you here. Would have been 5 million bricks that would have created this fort. 55 feet tall, the fort would have stood, and we had enough room out here for 650 men and 135 cannon. Now, let's fast forward 33 years into the future. November of 1860. Fort Sumter, 90% complete. Out of that, the 10% that's not done, not one single Union soldier, or federal soldier for that matter, is stationed out here. And out of 135 cannon, we have 10 mounted and ready to be fired. The other 125 laying in a nice pile out in the middle of the parade ground. That's also going to bring us to an important juncture in our United States history, a presidential election. This one is pretty important, folks, because we have not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 4 people running for president. We have a Republican candidate, 2 Democratic candidates, and a Constitution candidate. Without one single Southern vote from the South, Abraham Lincoln comes out victorious. South Carolina is outraged. They do not like Lincoln. They don't like the Republican Party. They do not like what is going to happen potentially to their way of life when Lincoln comes into office. So they do what they think is best, and they secede from the United States, becoming the sovereign nation of South Carolina. They do this on December 20th, 1860. Next morning, Anderson and his 85 federal troops over at Fort Moultrie wake up. They hear the news of secession. They're a little concerned because Fort Moultrie has an inherent problem. It's very low to the ground, and it has a tendency to have sand dunes build up on the outside of it. Enough so that South Carolina militiamen could march up those sand dunes, down into the fort, grab all 85 men, take them unaware, and expel them from the boundaries of South Carolina. Well, how do you prevent that from happening? You move. And so the day after Christmas, Anderson and his 85 men in the night, in the darkness, cross 1.3 miles of open harbor in rowboats, come over here to Fort Sumter. The next morning, rising up over the fort, you will see a 35 by 20 foot, 33 star United States flag. This flag, ladies and gentlemen, is so large it is bigger than any flag you will see over a car dealership or Perkins. You can see it very clearly from downtown without any optical help. Now, with the flag of the United States flying over this fort, immediately South Carolinians are crying, "War! War!" Well, somehow their cooler heads prevail, and a nice letter will come out from the governor of South Carolina saying, "Major Anderson, you need to remove your men from this fort back to Fort Moultrie." Anderson replies back, "Sorry, I can't do that." And his reasoning being, which he doesn't specify, but the South Carolina militia will find out very soon, he has spiked all of the cannons and he has burned all of the cannon carriages, thus leaving not one single cannon usable over there. So as a military leader, are you going to want to take all of your men back to a fort that doesn't have any cannons? No, you are not. So 4 months is going to elapse before that infamous first shot of the Civil War. However, a lot of stuff's going to go on during that time period. 6 more states will follow in behind South Carolina, and in February of 1861, we will have 7 states come together and form the Confederate States of America. They are going to bring in military leaders. Here in Charleston, they are going to hand-pick a gentleman by the name of Pierre Gustave Toutant to Beauregard, also known as PGT,